your favorite story timer, Annie, and her best pal, E. E, why are you laughing?
Oh, it's just kind of funny.
I know it is, E. Sorry. Today we are gonna be reading Shadow Jumper again.
I love this book.
By J.M. Forster. If you have this book at home, why not go grab it so we can read together?
And remember, don't actually try shadow jumping at home. It's really dangerous.
You're right, E. Good tip. Now let's begin the story. So last time we left off at the end of the chapter 6, I think. That was it.
Ooh.
And so, like I said, if you have this book at home, why not go grab it so we can read together. But we didn't end chapter 6. We're still on it. So let's go. Page 43. Actually, I'm going to start at the beginning, end of page 42. We'll ring them when we get there. If we wait, it might be too late for you. Would your mom let you go if you asked? Even Kathy wouldn't, and she's really relaxed about me doing my own thing. Beth was right. Mom got extra anxious about him in the summer months. Better to leave without her having the chance to say no to the trip. She was so brittle at the moment, one wrong word from him and she'd snap like a dry twig. Kathy's away, said Beth, and Pete's so busy with the others he won't miss me for a while. It'll be cool, don't worry. There's another problem, said Jack, putting his hand on the door to stop her rushing out. I can't travel during the day because of the sun. Oh! Beth plonked herself in a chair, looking dejected. She stared into space for a moment. Then she leant forwards and slapped her knees with her hands. We'll go tonight then. Right now we can start making a list of questions to ask her, like proper detectives. Got any paper? I hope he has paper. Reluctantly, he fetched a pad of paper and a pencil. He had the feeling Beth wasn't taking his predicament seriously. Do we need to write it down? I'm sure I'll know what to ask when I see Aunt Lil. But she had already started jotting something on the pad in large blue writing. Jack peered over her shoulder. I want to show you this specific bit because the writing on this specific page is different. Just to show that sometimes in books, authors want to make their pages' words interesting. At the top, she'd scribbled, "The case of the missing dad." Why did you write that? It looks stupid. Okay, I'll cross that bit out. Beth put a line through it, and underneath wrote a short list of questions. Does Aunt Lil know where your dad is? Where is he? How can we get hold of him? There are 3 possible explanations. Either your dad's too busy to contact you, or he doesn't want to see you, or... Beth raised both hands in the air and fluttered her fingers in a bad imitation of a ghost. Something sinister's happened to him. Whichever's right, you still need to find him urgently, correct? Jack shrugged. Beth was like a whirlwind, darting here and there, making snap decisions. Jack couldn't help wondering if involving her in all this was such a great plan. But he'd asked for her help, and that was that. There was no going back now, and what else could he do? Sit around waiting for Dad to show up? He could be waiting for a long time, and things had gone too far for that. Chapter 7. Pulling his earbuds out, Jack glanced at his watch. 10 p.m. There had to be another half an hour before they got to Culford. Boredom settled on him like a heavy cloud, dampening his spirits further. And when bored, he always got in a stew over his problems, going around in circles and never getting anywhere. He needed to distract himself to blot out the thoughts rioting in his head. Beth? She looked up at him from the paperback she'd been immersed in since they'd boarded the bus. Why do you wear so much makeup? You look good without it. Somehow that hadn't come out quite right. Beth shrugged her shoulders, folding the page corner over and closing the book with a snap. Are you saying I look ugly? I didn't mean... Jack trailed off, realizing Beth was laughing at him. It's okay, I realize I look scary. That's the point, I suppose. It's a good way of keeping people away. Then they don't ask me questions about my mom and dad. Beth picked a fleck of gray fluff off the sleeve of her jacket and flicked it in his direction. I don't want their sympathy anyway. I want to be left alone. It's doing a good job. Jack brushed the fluff off. I nearly threw myself off the roof when I saw you. I'd do anything to blend in, but that's never going to happen. You're lucky. Beth yawned and stretched her back. If you don't want to talk to someone, you just have to shake their hand. They'd be gone in a flash. Ha ha, very funny. I've had that happen and it doesn't make me feel very lucky. Beth chewed her lip. Beth chewed her lip. Well, it's better if I'm like this, believe me. Jack wasn't so sure, but he didn't have the chance to debate the point, as Beth had shut her eyes. As she dozed off, mouth open, her head flopped onto his shoulder, and a small patch of drool settled on his top near his neck. He gave up trying to push her away. The momentum of the bus always tipped her back again. Instead, he closed his eyes and concentrated on thinking up a new move he could try on the roofs when they got back to the city. He was jolted out of his thoughts by a loud thud. The bus lurched to one side. Jack seized the handle on the back of the seat in front. Somebody screamed. Cries of alarm shot through the bus as it veered across the road and back again. The driver braked hard, and the screech and stench of hot tires on tamarack filled the air. Jack was thrown sideways against the window. Pain exploded in his skull. He sat dazed, clutching his head in both hands until the bus finally juddered to a stop. There was an eerie hush for a few seconds, and then everyone started talking at once. Jack stayed in his seat, too shaken to move. He touched the side of his head, grimacing. A bump had already formed under his hair. It throbbed as if shards of glass had penetrated his skull and become lodged behind his eyeballs. When he looked up, he was amazed to see the glass wasn't broken or even cracked. Beth? He turned to the seat beside him to find that she'd been thrown onto the floor. Are you okay? He stretched his hand out to help her get up. Yeah, I think. What's happened? She staggered to her feet and brushed the dirt off her clothes. We hit something. Jack peered out of the window, cupping his hand over his eyes to reduce the glare from the bus's eternal lights. He couldn't see anything. I'm going to find out. Beth shuffled forward, stripping over the bags strewn in the aisle. With his head still throbbing, Jack stood up and scanned the luggage rack for his bag. Luckily, it had stayed put. He rummaged inside for the torch he always carried with him and followed Beth. Other passengers were checking themselves and their belongings for damage. Okay, so torch, in this case, it means flashlight. That's just something that British people decided to change, so that if Americans say flashlight, British people say torch. Now you know. Because this is a British book. The author's a British author. Now let's see, what do we go for? The driver had disappeared. The bus door was folded open. Stepping out from the light into the night was a shock for his senses. The surrounding darkness of the countryside was total pressing against his eyes like a black blanket. He rubbed them. Not being able to see made him kind of panicky. Maybe this is what it's like being blind, he thought to himself. He stood still waiting for his eyes to grow accustomed to the gloom. What can you see? Asked Beth as she slided up to him, her warm breath tickling his neck. Nothing, said Jack. Switch this on then, you idiot. She grabbed his hand and gave it a shake. Jack had forgotten he was holding his torch, but as he reached for the switch, a flickering beam of light appeared from behind the bus, moving towards them. Don't go back there, said the bus driver as he approached them. You'd best get back on the bus. A slight tremor in the driver's hand made the torchlight quiver. What's happened? Asked Beth. And that's where we're going to stop today, on another cliffhanger. In the middle of page 49. So, what do you think's happened? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure you like and hit that beautiful little subscribe button near the corner of the video for more awesome content with Anytime Storytime and E, her fluffy little friend. Thanks for watching. Adios.